everyone, it's Andrea, and I'm here with a super special project. My daughter Katie just got married 5 days ago, and unlike this thick stack of engagement photos, I've decided not to let our wedding photos linger in little boxes. So I wanted to get started right away with this candid shot that I snapped of Katie and James, and I wanted to make this the cover of their album. I know we'll be waiting for professional photographs from her awesome photographer, but in the meantime, I have a few of my own that I want to scrapbook. So I've decided that the colors where Katie got married and the colors of the dresses were very suitable to our cherished paper pack. So at some point you might see me bring this in to work on, but it's got lots of pretty blues, yellows, and greens. This is a sticker sheet. We've got some patterned cardstock, some really subtle patterns. We have this pretty shortbread, and on the back side of that is this pretty green. You guys get the idea. This is going to work really well for my album. There's also embellishments and picture my life cards. Look at these laser cuts. They're beautiful. But today I'm going to start out with just a simple Cricut cut. And this Cricut cut is just $1 over in my Close to My Heart store. I'll put the link for that down below. And I'm also going to use our mix-in paper pack because the mix-ins are meant to go with all three of our paper packs, including Cherish. So I have simply decided to use this wood grain piece here. It's got this beautiful harbor color on the back, or mist. And I've cut it down to 11 3/4 by 11 3/4. I'm just going to show you the rest of these papers really quick so you can see. This one's really a Christmassy color. We have this beautiful page right here. It's plaid, and this is mink with polka dots. We've got some toffee, and then some little tiny plaid, which has the scarlet, and then last but not least, sage. And I just figured that a lot of these would play in really beautifully to our album, but I really wanted the front of our album to be bold. So I went with a Cricut cut. Like I said, $1 for this entire Cricut cut. And I'm going to show you, I printed this out using what I did in my Cricut. So this entire thing is $1. I resized the center white piece. I left the flowers out and I just pulled in these center pieces here. And I resized them to fit a 5x7 photograph because that's what I want on the page. Everything else was proportional to this, but I decided to downsize this, to shrink it a little bit to make it fit. And that's why we got this little overhang, but we'll make that work. So I have this just printed off on my design space as a reference, and I did change out many of the colors on here. I wanted it to be a more subtle color palette, and it was very easy for me to visualize by doing this. And so I'm going to start with a big base of black cardstock, but I also, like I said, I wanted that really pretty soft wood green. And so what I've decided to do is that I need to look at this, and I've decided that I really need to put some color down in the corners where the flower arrangements are going to go. So I'm just going to keep the black piece right here just as a reference, and I'm not tacking this down or anything, but I figured if any of my ink got here on this black, I could simply flip it over and it would be just fine. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my Seabrook Re-inker, and I'm just going to put a little dot here on my glass mat. And if you need a glass mat, I'll put a link down below. I'm not an affiliate, but I will put a link down there so that you can find these mats. This one is the 24 by 18 inch mat. I'm just putting in 1 drop of water from my brush here. I'm mixing that with my ink, and now I'm simply going to flick around the areas that I want a little bit more color, little bit of splatter. And I don't have enough color, so I'm going to add just 1 more drop. I want it to go light and then build up if I needed to. So I'm just going to swish that around, and we'll just splatter just a bit down in the corners where the little bouquets of flowers are going to be. And I do like the way that turned out. And with these glass boards, all you have to do is get a baby wipe and wipe it up, and you are back in business. Your board is clean. Really easy to use. So that was pretty much it as far as prepping that page. I want to keep this really simple and clean and elegant. And so I have just 1 sheet of black cardstock. We'll put a little tape right down onto this base page. And I have made it so that we have 1/8 of an inch border all around. I could definitely use the grid here on the glass board to go ahead and line this up, or my Versamat, but I wanted to just eyeball it in this case. The first cut that was made was out of our Seabrook cardstock, and it's both the bottom mat along with some pretty leaves. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut that on the darker side. So I'm going to adhere that down as well. That's the first layer that we want to put down. And then we'll just build from there. Next comes the black layer. So I'll bring that in, run a little bit of adhesive down there. And this one fits right on top of that Seabrook layer. It lines up perfectly. And so once you have it attached to the Seabrook and all lined up, just go ahead and make sure that's adhered down well. Next layer, I have just white daisy. And I know you're not going to see much of this because it's going to be hidden by the actual photo. But I still wanted to put this down because you will see these little rounded pieces. I'm going to call these like alcoves, the little alcoves here. And I just thought that was very beautiful as well. And by doing all 3 of these layers together, by shrinking them, by unlocking my measurements and making it taller and a little thinner, I didn't change the arc here. I do have a little bit of extra black. You can see it kind of puffs out here, but that's the way that this image was designed. So now I'm going to take a photo of the bride and groom, and we're just going to adhere that down as well, right here onto the layout. So let's go ahead and do that. So now that our photo's in place, I'm going to begin working on these clusters of flowers. So I'm going to just set this to the side next to our scrapbook page here. I'm going to pull out some of the pieces that I think are going to go down first. And my guess is that it's going to be most of these little fern-like items. And they are cut out of our Rosemary cardstock. And I do prefer the darker side with this layout. I really wanted to pull in some of the colors that were in Katie's bouquet. And so I have those. And then I'm going to also pull out the other leaves that are hiding down in this little tray. When I cut out things with my Cricut, I usually try to keep like things together. And I put all the little pieces into a little bin. This way they are much harder to lose. And you'll notice that we have some sage, and I have some lighter sage leaves and then some darker ones. And I did exaggerate the color here on my guide, on my sketch. I changed the colors, that one was lighter and one was darker, so I could try to figure this all out. So I'm just going to begin by looking at where we need to adhere down these little leaves. So I have my tweezers and I have some of my glue, and I'm just going to put some glue onto the edge of these. And we're just going to begin arranging. It looks like this one starts about here. So we're going to put that down. And I think if you just put it at the end, it's going to give this layout a little more movement. And I love that about it. I love seeing things have some movement. So this one's going to go over somewhere in this area. And it looks like it comes to just about the top of this, like so. And they are going in both directions, so you just want to be careful that you do have them in the right direction. This one looks like it's coming, right about here. So we'll put that one down there. And if we're a little off, it's okay. We have just a couple more. So one of them is going to go right here. It looks like it's coming across the bottom and out and over this leaf right here. So we'll make that happen. Just a couple more of these ferns, and then we can start building our bigger pieces, our flowers and such. So this one seems to go about here. And then we have just one more. I find that using the tweezers sort of aids me in not getting as much glue on my fingers. So we'll go ahead and put this over here. Okay, and hopefully that one stays down. And we have some leaves as well. And I do have a big light sage leaf, which we're going to put down. It seems to cover just the very tip of this right here. I know some of these are going to end up over James's hand down here, and that's okay with me. We have a really short and stout darker leaf. It comes next. And that one seems to go about here. The tips of the leaves cross over. We have a couple of the smaller ones as well. Looks like the lighter one goes down first. And that seems to be, oh, it's just a, let's see, it's about there. Making sure we have the darker side up for this one. So far, we're looking good. I really thought this might be a nightmare to cut, and it really was easy to cut all the pieces on the Cricut and then to just collect those. It cut beautifully on my Cricut Maker. I was thrilled with how it turned out. For this one, on the sketch, well, you know what, I'm going to pull this one in just a bit. We have that little bit of room right here, and I want to just tuck that in just a little closer. Okay, we have this chunkier leaf. And the green mono glue does so well when gluing down all of these leaves. And we just have another little tiny leaf cluster up here. And it looks to me like a lighter one goes down it as well first. That seems to be up here. And then one more. If you wanted to, you could spend time inking all of these leaves. And boy, that would make this layout even more gorgeous. We're just going to go straight for gluing them down, and we'll use some pop tape, some foam tape to pop them up. And I think it's going to be really pretty. Now, my flowers might look a little bit backwards to you. I have 3 layers to each of these roses. And I cut the big ones out of white daisy. And there should be 4 of those. And then we have 4 of these layers right here. And they are a little bit thicker. So that's layer number 2. And what I did was I had decided that I didn't quite love the dark side of the linen that I cut out. It was just too dark, so I decided I wanted to go with the lighter side. So once I did that, I had to figure this out because my pieces seemed to be a little bit upside down. So I flipped them over and it all worked okay. And so now it's just a matter of holding on to your layers. And really, if you just hit the outside layers just a bit with your adhesive, you'd be in business. Less is more on this project for sure. Just a little bit on these thicker layers. But I wanted to make sure the ends were all glued down. So there's one layer with a little glue on our mat. That's okay. We're just going to wipe that up again. When you use liquid adhesive, you have just a moment to make sure that your layers are on the way that you'd like them. And I'm pretty happy with that. And so we have just one more top layer here. Once again, I'm just going to dot the edges. Less is more. But you do want your edges to stick down. Like so. We'll line this one up. And there we are. We have a beautiful rose. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these 4, but I'm going to do those off camera to just save you a little time, and then we'll come back and we'll assemble the rest of the layout. Okay, so we're back once again, and I have done all 4 constructed all 4 of our roses. And again, the biggest piece is white daisy, then we go to French vanilla, and then we have topped it with a lighter side of linen. So it's 3 shades of white, and I like that the French vanilla brings in a little bit of the yellow that goes on in real roses. And so I have gone ahead, I'm going to flip this over, and I put some foam tape on each of these. And then we are just going to go ahead and glue these down. And so this rose goes about here. We'll start with the biggest 2 roses, and then we will go ahead and move on to the smaller ones. I'm just going to put 1 piece of foam tape on here for once to start. And right here we have a rose. Another small one down here, and I'm just looking at the photo for reference to see if I can't find how these go. I really think that most of the frilly part, there's like a lot of little lines, they tend to face the leaves, so we're going to put that right there, and we're going to do the same thing up on top. The frillier part up here, where there's a lot more cuts, is going to go right by these leaves, and I'm just going to actually tuck it under the other bigger rose this time. Down here I have the smaller one on top. Up here I'm going to put the bigger one, and boy, I think this is already popping. Now all that we have to do are the littler flowers, and they're going to take just a tiny bit of work, because I'm going to bring this bin over. There are little tiny stars that are going to go on these bigger flowers, and then there's little teeny tiny dots that are going to go on these bitty little tiny flowers. So I'm going to get started on that, and then once they're done as well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come back and show you all of that. Okay, so we're back, and I have finished putting all of the little centers onto these microscopic little flowers, and I put a foam dot on the back of each, and that hopefully will make this process even quicker. And let's get started. So I have the Close to My Heart tweezers. Once again, these are getting a little sticky with buildup from our glue, and so I'm just going to give those a little wipe down, and we're just going to start once again with the biggest flowers. And I will put this into fast forward so that you don't have to sit there on the edge of your seat. This one is a little off. I wanted to definitely cover up the edge of that fern. So I have done that. And then we'll move on from there. So we are done with putting all of our flowers on. And the one thing that I had really wanted to do, and I might have just caused myself a little bit of grief, I put these flowers down here. Let's just see if we can pick those off again. And it looks like we have. I used my Cricut. I found a foldable banner piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and I put some foam tape down here in the middle. Already gone ahead and folded this up a bit with my maker. The score lines were created right away using the scoring wheel, and I really just want to tuck this down here. I used a font that I had on my computer and just a Cricut pen and just put Katie and James, and now I have these 2 little flowers that I really need to put, and I think that they will go well right here. And then maybe right here. So that's it. That is a simple layout that I've made using just a $1 Cricut cut from Close to My Heart. And I just think it's a simple and elegant way to put together a wedding page, a title page for an album. Again, this is going to be all of our candid photos that I'm planning on putting into this album specifically. But if you're looking to do roses, I think the 3 shades of white are just perfect. And they definitely pull in the yellowy aspect of the flowers in her bouquet and all of the different greens that we have here. just perfect. The Seabrook, the Rosemary, and the Sage with two different sides, lighter and darker, just really play well with the bouquet as well. So thanks for joining me as I started this album. Boy, it feels good to get started. Now, if you'd like to learn more about all of the products that I've used in this project, I will put the links down below in this video's description. You simply just have to click and open up the description. If you are new to my channel, please consider becoming one of my subscribers so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And as always, be sure to give this video a like if you have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching and have a very creative day.